Welcome back to PSIND. My name is Cam, and today we're diving into what may be the most controversial episode I've done so far. And I'm sorry for the delay. It's been a hectic couple weeks with work and everything, so I'm finally getting caught up to doing what I want to do, so I'm gonna have a couple episodes probably this week, and then hope to get back to the schedule on Sunday. But the title is simple. Trump's only way out of the Iran war. Now, before anybody gets upset, let me make something clear. This episode is an opinion piece. It's an argument, and it's a question. It's based on a concern that millions of Americans on both the left and the right are starting to ask. If the United States continues moving toward direct conflict with Iran, how does Donald Trump avoid becoming exactly what he promised voters he would never become? Another war president. Because if there's one thing that separated Trump from establishment Republicans in 2016, it was his criticism of endless wars. He attacked the Iraq War. He criticized nation building. He mocked the foreign policy experts who told Americans that every conflict was necessary. And many Americans voted for him because they believed he represented a break from that system. But today, many of those same voters are looking at the rising tensions with Iran and wondering whether that promise still exists. And that leads to the central argument of today's episode. Is Trump's only political off-ramp from a wider conflict the reduction or elimination of American financial and military support to Israel? Let's talk about it. Okay, so Trump's political movement was built on a simple message. America first, not Israel first, not Ukraine first, not NATO first, but America first. Whether you agreed with him or not, people understood what he was selling. Secure the border, fix American cities, and stop wasting money overseas. Avoid unnecessary wars, and that message resonated because Americans were exhausted. 20 years in Afghanistan, the Iraq War, Libya, Syria, hundreds of billions spent, thousands of lives lost. And what did Americans get in return? Many would argue, not much. Trump tapped into that frustration. He wasn't supposed to be another George W. Bush. He wasn't supposed to be another interventionist Republican. He was supposed to be different. Which is why the Iran question is so important. Because if America gets pulled deeper into a regional conflict, many supporters will ask, what the hell happened to America first? Let's look at reality here. Iran is not Iraq. Iran has a population of nearly 90 million people, a large military, regional allies, and missile capabilities. And before you start listening to what the hell Pete Hegseth has been telling you, they are not decimated whatsoever. Do your research. They have not struck down what they have claimed to struck down. An influence across the Middle East. Anyone who thinks a conflict with Iran would be quick or simple is probably just ignoring history. The Middle East has a way of turning short missions into long commitments. Americans know this firsthand. We've seen it before. The initial justification always sounds manageable, the objectives sound limited, the timelines sound short, and then all of a sudden, years pass, money disappears, lives are lost, oil skyrockets. I saw something today that if the Iran conflict doesn't end in 6 months, the price of oil per barrel will be anywhere at bare minimum of $200 a barrel. I'm talking, that's nearly like, I don't even remember the calculation. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but that's nearly $7 a gallon of gas once it's refined. And that's for the cheap states. Politicians just tell Americans they just need a little bit more patience. In the words of this administration, short-term pain for long-term gain. That history is exactly why Americans become nervous anytime Washington begins discussing military actions, because we've heard this shit before. Now let's address the most controversial part of this discussion, Israel. The United States and Israel have maintained a close relationship for decades. Supporters argue Israel is the most strongest ally in the Middle East. Critics argue that relationship has become so close that Washington sometimes struggled to separate American interest from Israeli interest. And that's the debate. It isn't a new one. The question being asked by critics is simple. If avoiding a wider regional war is the goal, why continue policies that could increase American involvement? Again, this isn't about whether Israel has a right to exist or not. It isn't about whether Israeli citizens deserve safety. Most Americans would agree they do. The question is whether American taxpayers should continue funding military assistance while the United States faces its own economic challenges. National debt, infrastructure issues, housing cost, healthcare cost, and rising cost of living, and oil costs on top of that, to touch on my recent statement. Many Americans are asking why billions continue flowing overseas while those problems remain unresolved. Here's where things get interesting politically. Trump faces a balancing act. On one side are traditional Republicans who strongly support continued aid and strategic cooperation with Israel. So you're talking people like Mark Levin, that's not a politician, but you're talking podcasters I'm doing now. Mark Levin, Ben Shapiro, politicians, you're talking Lindsey Graham, Ted Cruz, that like. On the other side are newer America First conservatives who increasingly oppose foreign intervention. And this is podcasters who have went away from Trump. So you're talking Tucker Carlson, Dave Smith, Candace Owens, and then even politicians. You got Thomas Massie, who Israel pumped $35 million into a single congressional seat to get his ass out of there because he disagreed with Trump. And then you got Marjorie Taylor Greene, who gets called a traitor because she wanted justice for the Epstein victims. Those two groups aren't always aligned anymore, and the Iran issue exposes that divide. If Trump remains fully committed to every regional escalation, he risks alienating anti-war voters. If he distances himself from intervention, he risks criticism from longtime foreign policy hawks. And that's the trap he's in. And that's why I kind of feel bad for him at this point. And that's why some people argue reducing aid could provide a political escape route for him. It allows Trump to say we support peace and we support diplomacy. But American taxpayers are not going to fund every conflict around the world. Whether you agree with that position or not, you can understand the political logic behind it. Now let's be realistic. Nobody wakes up tomorrow and completely changes decades of foreign policy overnight. That is not how government works. But advocates of reducing aid usually point towards several possibilities. Gradually reducing military assistance, requiring greater financial self-sufficiency, limiting involvement in regional conflicts, increasing congressional oversight, or redefining what strategic partnership actually means. The goal from their perspective is reducing the likelihood that American troops become involved in another major Middle Eastern conflict. Again, whether that would work is a matter of debate, but that's the argument. And maybe that's the bigger issue. Not Israel, not Iran, not even Trump. The bigger question is whether America can have an honest conversation about foreign policy, because too often these discussions become emotional immediately. People are labeled, people stop listening, and serious questions never get answered. Questions like, what should America's role in the world be? What alliances serve American interest? And how much military involvement is too much? What responsibilities should taxpayers have? Those aren't extremist questions. They're questions every democracy should be able to ask. If tensions with Iran continue, these debates are not going away. They're only going to get louder. You're going to see more defectors because Americans are tired. They're tired of wars. They're tired of debt. They're tired of economic crisis day by day, not knowing. Tired of being told every conflict is essential. And tired of watching Washington spend money overseas while problems at home just continue to grow. Whether Trump's answer is diplomacy, military pressure, reduced aid, or some combination of the three remains to be seen. But one thing is certain. The decision made over the next few years will define how his presidency is remembered. Will he be remembered as the president who kept America out of another major war? Or will he be remembered as another leader who got pulled into the same cycle that has defined American foreign policy for decades? History will decide. But that's my question for you. Do you think reducing or ending aid to Israel would actually make America less likely to become involved in a war with Iran? Or do you think the relationship is too strategically important to change? Leave your thoughts in the comments. If you liked this episode, hit subscribe, share, and I just kind of want to give my little opinion. I know I gave my basis of through the words of this. In my eyes, Trump needs to take the L. He needs to say, listen, I thought this was going to be a 2-week thing, and it wasn't. He needs to pull it out. He needs to just go back to what the JCPOA was, because at this point, Iran has, since Trump ripped the JCPOA up when he first was in office, they've had all these years to build as much uranium as they've wanted. So we don't even know where their concentrated uranium is at because of Trump. So I think at this point, his best bet is to get a negotiation among the JCPOA, pull out of Iran, and look into some sort of, you can still fund Israel, but military advancements don't need to go to Israel. Strategic funding is fine, but we have to find some level between AIPAC and military involvement in the Middle East. All right, that's all I got to say. Massey 2028, peace.